That's new. And also, the power of discernment is directly linked to our capacity to witness. Maybe they're one and the same. But the discernment is the wisdom that comes through the witness. It's why it's so vital that we are able to access a sense of midline, mid-space, central channel. There are many channels, but think of your longitudinal alignment, head to toes, innermost, axial. And we can also orient within the relational field, the front and back, future and past, pointing to the now, the two sides reflecting each other and also dancing about the axis. There are spirals, there's above and below, all of these complementary, moving, energy generating realities. And see if you can, as you exhale, let the heels drift a little bit further away from the back of the head, also releasing from the heels. And how is that a choice? When I was first introduced to meditation, I learned very quickly that it is not a practice of self-control. I learned very quickly that you can't make anything happen by sheer will alone if it doesn't have a fundamental purpose. So what I learned was the deeper access is through subtle release, letting go, but not throwing in the towel. To distill from the moment the essence of what wants to happen and having the subtle awareness to know what that is. To allow for that to move through you, to express itself. It's creative energy, it's a creative process. Can you feel that in your breath? All of the potentialities, can you feel that in the relaxation of the heart and the belly, the deep belly, soles of the feet? So this morning in this practice, the invitation is ever present, is to allow ourselves to remember, to tap deep into our innate capacity to move, to breathe, to play. So especially now, it's always most important, but after the last year and a half, allow yourself to play. You know how to breathe. You know how to listen, and by listen, I mean track your bones, track yourself, feel. It just means that you know how to feel. So take just a few more moments, be a few more moments in this supine space, and consciously lay your bones on the earth. And this is a quality of moving through skin, through flesh, sinew, blood, all of the sort of so-called outer layers, and get to the bone of the matter, and lay the bones down on the earth with an exhale. Maybe it's just the feet, maybe it's just a wrist or a few fingers, or maybe with a single exhale, you can lay all your bones down at once. And it takes a lot of trust. A lot of trust. When you lay your bones down, maybe you can feel the front body softening into the deep or back body, closer to the ground. Your orientation is now closer to the spine. And what if some awareness, some deep awareness that wants to run on its own is constantly uh, in the flow of discernment, in the flow of truth, that it can run even though the mind can do all kinds of multitasking, that this core thread of awareness is ever present and is our reference, it's our zero. If we could just remember how to touch it, how to return to it as frequently as possible. And so if you're on a yoga mat, you may want to lose the mat. We're going to continue on our back, but you want a floor space, if possible, that is more slippery. And we're going to stay in the key of supine and begin to move, and I'm going to guide you, just to give you some ideas. First is to just extend through one leg more than the other. So there's a quality of reach through one heel, through one side of the body, such that it even causes you to back bend in the opposite direction of the long leg. So go back and forth, pulsing, pushing through opposite sides, through the foot, reaching through that same side temple. You end up, you want to go slow, go really slow. So you're in the mud, you're in the clay, and you're moving the clay of the earth with your body, pushing into the clay everywhere that touches the floor. Play with variations of where your head looks slowly. Try to articulate everything, pandiculate. Try to remain curious, which is its own kind of surrender. And you want to tone everything, hence the metaphor for the clay, the mud. So you're in the river. And when you can allow, keep pulsing, so you're side bending on your back, just your arms begin to take off, you begin to reach more deeply into your environment. And as a baseline, you want to give a little more attention to toning the buttocks in general and the belly. Now, the belly is all the way around the body, not just the front and sides, although that's going to be your focus. But it's letting the lower corset, the lower functional corset, including the pelvis, tone them. Let the face move, let the energy of the mask dissolve, let the jaw be aware, the tongue often finding the roof of the mouth. So can you work? Can you really, really work here? And one of the ways you can do that is to pull the feet down into the ground, almost like you're going to back bend, almost like you're going to lift your hips, but press the hips into the floor too. Try not to lock the knees too often, the legs straighten sometimes. Most of the time, the legs are bent in many potentialities. And then go ahead and slide the feet in towards the hips. Find your relative zero, your relative neutral, and just rest the knees against each other with the feet a little bit wider than the hips. And observe. So here's our practice as a mantra of witnessing what we're feeling after deeply engaging and moving. Relationship between movement and stillness. And then finding them within each other. Okay, so walk your feet all the way together. I'm going to do some little bit of extension while we're here. So extend your left leg forward, everyone, until it's almost straight. And the back of the heel on the ground. Toes, the left toes facing the ceiling. Left knee's a little bent. Right foot's in pretty close. We're going to lift the hips without tucking the pelvis. Okay, so come on up. And as soon as your hips are up relatively high, drop the belly, drop the kidneys, keep the hips up. Now, move side to side, belly, legs, washing side to side. The front of the lower body is just brushing across the sky, picking up the sky with the pelvis. Now, the left leg is long, the left heel is on the floor, the knee's not locked. Pull both feet, even though they're in different configurations, into the ground. Use your arms, pull the shoulders into the ground, open the chest, but keep the kidneys hanging down so we don't push the diaphragm. Lift the pelvis, pull the pelvis up.
Pull the pelvis up. It's different than pushing. Pushing is quadriceps. Pull the feet down, the hips go up, using the back of the line, back line of the body. Turn your head to one side, keep moving. Try to find your own creative ways to self-balance in an asymmetrical setup. We're going to slide the left foot in, keep the hips up, slide the right leg forward, the leg almost straight, back of the right heel on the floor, continue to move. So the invitation always is to find variation within the shape. The shape is an extended supine, right? We're in bridge. And you're moving around in it. You got one leg long, that's your right leg. Left foot is in close. I mean, I don't even know how I ended up in this position, but check this out. You know, like you don't know. And that's the cool thing. Let your body take you. Let your intuition take you. Okay, slide the right foot in. Slowly, slowly. Keep moving side to side, but smaller movement. Hollow the belly, empty the belly, let the pelvis come down as you move side to side. You're brushing the sacrum across the earth, almost touching. An inch off the floor now. And then landing the pelvis in the center. Extend both legs out long. Push the heels out. And then relax the hip joints completely so the legs are free to turn out naturally, as they should. There's no need to pose. There's every need to witness. And so allow me to bring your awareness to some special points along the back body. So behind the knees, a feeling maybe of clearing, of a flush, circulatory, energetic release or stimulus. And then also the low back. Can you feel anything happening in the pelvic floor? A sense of expansion, of awakening, of transparency, of light coming through and up, and then drop the kidneys. Some release behind the diaphragm and then behind the heart, and then the back of the neck. Even behind the eyes, right? It's amazing. Okay, beauty. So bend the knees, walk the feet in. And let's go ahead and come up to a seat and let that be just as conscious, the transition up to a seat. And you can sit any way you want to. So this very ancient human experience of sitting, the key of sitting. And the spine, the energy of the body generally being upright, verticality, perpendicular to the ground plane. And just that transition, there's more to observe and to feel. And then change the way that you're sitting. Something different. Yeah. So let's get into some pelvic individuation, different than isolation. So we're going to just, whatever your seat geometry is with the legs, it's okay, it's all good. We're going to let the pelvis fall back and roll back. We'll drop the chin eventually, let the chest round, let the shoulders round a little, but let the low belly gravitate towards the sacrum very subtly. Turn the glutes on a little bit by just pushing down into the floor. And then pulling the fabric of the ground backwards with your sits bones, roll the pelvis forward. Now this first oscillation, this first orbit, you may not go very far. And you'll overcompensate probably by pushing the belly diaphragm forward. Don't do that. Just let the sits bones pull back. Glutes on the belly close, and then again, roll back. So when you roll back, there's a little bit of a flexion of the spine, looking down, rounding. And then as you pull the ground back with the sits bones and sit up, there's a little bit of an invitation to back bend. Shoulder blades get closer. You might look up. But this is all coming from the pelvis. So if I were to ask you to move the ground, as you go back and forth, you move the ground forward and back with your sits bones, your orientation is going to be deep and powerful. You're going to go slow. You're going to engage more. And see if the upper body, especially belly, torso, lower torso, can follow the pelvis. Can it translate the impulse of the pelvis upwards? So pelvis first, belly second. Very close together, of course, but it's not quite simultaneous. It's an upward wave. Now the arms. Now you're in the water, in the river. Your legs and your pelvis are in the clay. Your upper body's pushing and pulling against the current happily because you're rediscovering yourself right now. You're pushing and pulling against your inner world, as it is also the outer world. The head is looking around. You're toning everything, feet, legs, every fiber. While you keep doing this, change the way that you're sitting. It doesn't have to be the same thing on the other side. We let the legs not get stuck. The legs are, when we sit, the human experience of sitting is interesting. I'll keep going with the pelvis as I get into this a little bit. The geometry of the legs needs to change to have variety, blood flow, lymphatic flow, and just a sense of ease. Don't hold yourself to any ideal. And even though we sit and all the weight's on the sits bones, most of the weight's on the sits bones, the legs get out of the way, but they also participate. So turn on the legs. All you have to really do is push down into the ground. Engage the moment. Just a little bit longer, everybody. So you can really work here. If you're turning everything on to the point where you're trembling slightly, yes? And the breath is somehow much more vast for that. So don't equate an open, voluminous breath with a soft body. That can happen. But when the body's organized and toned and deeply committed, you're going to discover another kind of deep breath that is more intracellular, more intramolecular. Quantum breath, if you will, the subtlest, deepest. I mean, look at this. As you're dancing, you're earth dancing, and flex the wrists, extend the wrists. What are the fingers doing? What are the toes doing? What are the eyebrows doing? Very, very good. Now, bring it to relative stillness. Let it come into stillness on its own, basically. And observe. Don't collapse. In fact, just the power of witnessing will keep you from collapsing. Generally speaking. And a soft core challenge for you is to get a little taller every time you exhale. Bring the inhalation very softly to the deeper belly, to the back of the diaphragm, to the kidneys, the adrenals. Relaxing the pelvic floor as it floats. A relaxed pelvic floor floats if it's healthy. Beautiful. Okay, everyone, let's sit together with this. Let's take the right leg in front, crossing the legs. Now you can do that shins crossed. If the hips are open, do wider knees. And we're going to start loading the shoulders. So very slowly, lean into one side, put the hand down. Now the hand turns out 90 degrees, thumb forward. The elbow is going to stay really close to the body. You're going to roll the shoulder onto the back and down, and then lean in just a little bit. Now put the weight right now. Look down at your right hand. If you're sitting on the little finger side of the wrist and the index root is popping up, try to pronate the hand, push the root of the index down, the thumb root down, and grab on with your fingertips. Okay, pull both shoulder blades closer and then push back up. Go side to side, even though the right leg is in front. Again, the elbow's close to the midline, the hand is fiercely engaged. And you want to keep the shoulder head as far away from the floor as you can. You can also use your free hand. If you want to load the down shoulder more, bring the free hand into it, put both hands on the floor, but that second hand is light. So what I want you to pay close attention to is these first several repetitions, the rhythm. The body organizes relatively quickly. There's so many variables, the health of your shoulder, rotator cuff, etc. But notice how the range of motion is opening up for you. The side body, the hips, and the shoulders are opening under load. Everywhere you feel a stretch, you must engage. Okay, so the side belly, the QL on the back, you're going to want to turn on the glutes of the exposed side, push into the floor any way that you can. You're allowed, of course, to take that hip, let the light hip come off the ground. You need to. You might even eventually get to where you're laying one temple on the floor or kissing the forehead to the ground. Also, make sure you're not tucking the pelvis. You'll tend to fall towards the back of the sitting bone on the loaded side. So lean a little more forward on the loaded sits bone while the shoulder pulls back and away from the ground the whole time. This is fantastically strong. You have to remember how to engage. And then as you next come up, just pause. Just try taking the backs of the hands on the knees. Hang your elbows freely by your side. And there's much to feel. There's much moving. Give special attention, give some TLC to the co-release of the sides of the neck, across the tops of the shoulders into the arms. Feel the top branches of the tree of life opening because they want to. I'm going to switch the way the legs are crossed, so the left leg in front. Now, this is tricky. We're going to do this. This is warming up for something later. So now we're going to go in with two hands. And as you go in with two hands, you're going to allow your head. So you're going to go forehead to the floor, then turn and look behind you. Now, it's really important that this shoulder not do this and the elbows stick out. You want to pull, watch this. You're going to grab onto the ground and pull the earth to you, retracting the shoulder blades, and then look behind you as much as you can. Okay, and then you'll push up and you'll go to the other side. Now the legs being asymmetrical, you're going to let them do what they do. Maybe your left leg sets when you push to your right. Remember, you're looking behind you, so you're going to get like towards one of the temples and the outer brow. Now be conscious of your belly, everyone, because it's really easy to focus on what you're feeling up top. So as you get into the depth of this and you look behind you, pulling your shoulder heads away from the ground, find the belly, the three layers of the belly, and just generally hollow the belly towards the spine. Why is this so good? It's a silly question. Everything that feels stretched, you must try to tone until it turns into support. Couple more. Try to keep the neck as empty as possible as you deeply engage the arms, chest, the whole body. The neck is supple as it works. The whole body supple as it is strong. See how the neck is opening up? You can turn much further now. Is anybody experiencing that? Oh yeah, last one. Finishing up your rounds. And coming up. And then laying down. Oh, yes. We could just be done like right now. Oh, yeah. Is it too cold?
It's so cold.
Yeah, I think she had it. I didn't even look at it. Thanks. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's continue the mutual release of neck, shoulders, chest, upper back, arms, lungs, heart. Clear the temples, the actual physical temples at the side of the head. The outer corners of the eyes, soft. Across the bridge of the nose, open. Across the cheekbones, light, buoyant. And the back of the throat hangs like a hammock. It widens, broadens, and drops, making more room for the breath to move through the upper channel of the midline. Beautiful, everyone. So bend the knees, walk the feet in. And I'm really into sharing some of the, there's a lot of crossover between the strength practice, the gravity work, and what we do in Embody Keys. Take the legs up into the sky. And the legs don't have to be straight. In fact, it's good to bend the knees, keep a little potentiality in the legs. Straightening every once in a while is great. Bending allows the sits bones to drop more for there not to be so much flexion in the low back. And yet the belly is hollow towards the floor at the same time. Take your hands and push your hands up towards the ceiling and lift the head and chest off the ground. Now, take the lower body and rotate it to the right 30, 40 degrees. So the legs go to the right, and the upper body is going to naturally reciprocate, turning to the left. Now push more through the right wrist and the left heel. In fact, let the left leg come a little closer to you, scissoring the feet a little bit. Turn and look over your left shoulder at the floor. Push the left heel a little more. Pull the right hip down into the ground. Good, now slowly come back to zero. Keep the head and chest up if you can. Legs go left a little, upper body goes to the right. We're just playing with spirals and core. Now push the left wrist and the right heel. Look down over your right shoulder, turn the head. Push the right heel again. So the right heel and the left eye are moving opposite each other. And then release, come back across the midline over legs right, upper body left. Push the left leg higher and the right wrist farther. Look down to the left. Wow, good. You should be trembling. That trembling is just moving as you switch sides. Your trembling is helping reorganize and stimulating. It's a quickening, and it moves micro fear and micro trauma out of your cells, out of your system. Push the right heel across the midline, the left wrist more. Look down. Breathe, everybody, breathe. Make sure your facial expression is outstanding. And then we're going to switch sides. Now, as you take the legs to the right and the upper body looks left, this time, pushing the right wrist, pushing the left heel, look to your right now with your head. Move the chin and the right wrist away from each other. Now lay your head back and touch the floor. Lay your head back and touch the floor and neutralize your twist. Bring the legs to the middle, then the legs over to the left, the upper body twisting to the right. Lift the head again. Push the left wrist to the right heel across the midline, and then look left. Push the left wrist further. Lay the head back softly. Keep everything else. Good. Now come everything to zero, everything to neutral. Bend the knees, bring the feet down to the floor. Rest the knees against each other, feet a little wide. Yeah, now there's a lot to feel. First thing is to not let the top of the sacrum dump into a tuck. We're going to point the sits bones ever so gently forward and down, like almost under the feet. You'll feel your lower lumbar vertebrae come up just a little bit. So then the complement to this anterior action in the pelvis is to drop the belly very softly. Drop L5, L4, coming up to L3 to the kidneys, L2, L1 to kidneys, back of the diaphragm, and just like drop the belly. Point the sits bones forward and down, neutral and active and soft. Beautiful. And making your way up to a seat. Okay, now for the really fun part. Let's get into plank. All right, so in plank, plank is great. It's a start to have it static, but we want to start moving in plank. So turn the hands a little bit out, turn the biceps forward. What you want to do is start a side-to-side motion in the pelvis. Just slowly moving the earth side to side with your hands and with your feet. You can even close your eyes. Let the head look around often, no matter what we're doing. Try to tone the skyward sides of the buttocks, the hamstrings, turn everything on gently as you move side to side. Then when you come over to one side, you're going to lower that hip. Then just turn the pelvis, and then you go across the midline with that rotation. When you get to the other side, turn the feet and the pelvis back across the midline and move across. This is incredible. Take a wider stance. So we turn the legs and the pelvis together to face the midline, go across the midline. Try not to sag too much in the pelvis. Keep the kidneys up. So everyone, your whole body's working. Work the top side too. Breathe, breathe. Allow yourself to be breathed. Engage your life. Let it tremble. Let it be intense, but consciously intense. Move the planet more than you. Very nice. Keep going. Keep going. You've got this. Let it. So the edge work. This is where the medicine is. It's not freak out. Make better choices. Right here. And then like a down dog. Keep the hands turned out. Just lift the hips. Hollow the belly to the sky. Hollow the belly. It's not a squeeze so much as it is a hollow. It's something you have to find. And just let the legs dance. Hang the head. Keep the belly lifted to the sky, kidneys wide open. Look under the right arm or the left arm. Find your footwork. You're dancing, you're earth dancing. And then have a seat. Sit any way you want. Now, by some strange miracle, if you haven't felt anything this morning, you are now. It's just what we sometimes lovingly call just being very consciously pumped. So there's an abundance, there's a frequency of abundance of fullness in the blood, in the cellular space. The conscious sponge of the body is taking on life force and there's a participatory tone that feels full. But how do we also cultivate the empty at the same time? Perspective, it's just perspective. Easily said, but may be elusive. So feel the fullness of the cells and also find the sweet stillness in the hollow inside the cells, like inside of great bamboo. And feel this in your senses and feel this in your marrow. Feel it in the eyes and in the cranium. And releasing the tail and the cranium, the back of the cranium, the occiput and the tail release each other. Okay, now let's do the inverse of this, which is much more challenging. Slide the legs out in front and turn the hands out. Now, how much you bend your knees is going to greatly affect how challenging it is to lift the hips. And so dig your hands in, turn the biceps out, elbows a little bent. And so what we want to do is move side to side. Now, the cool thing about this one is you can lean enough to take a hand off the floor, just saying. Just saying. And don't lock your knees and let your head do different things. Now you're going to go over to one side, turn the hips across the midline and push across. Look at this. Okay, then rotate and then go back across. Rotate, go back across. Watch your knees. You cannot lock here. You have to you have to have very strong hamstrings. Back of the leg really strong. Go back and forth. Lift the hips higher, pull the shoulder blades more together by lifting the heart higher. Turn and move across, and turn and move across. Planking is a transition. I'm considering adding transition keys to the practice. Oh, yes, good. Now come on down and lay down. Deeply stimulating, deeply engaging the back line. And releasing your past, releasing your history with each exhale, with no story. And it's very important right now to let the exhalation encourage length through release, length and spaciousness through release. Feel the space between the vertebrae, the intervertebral sponges, lengthening as you exhale. The hollow side of full. Drop the words and we just feel. Cleansing the kidneys, resetting the adrenals. Pelvic floor, you can feel the pelvic floor just singing in a very positive way. Soft, silky, buoyant, awake. All right, and if you'll indulge me, I want to carry us through another core sequence. Come back up to a seat. This one I want to show because it's pretty tricky, and you can do variations. I'll show both sides of it too before we do it. So you'll be in plank. The idea is so look, when we get into these intramuscular, deeply engaged moments, the more you find variation and the more you can support that variation at the level of joint and in every other way, the more medicinal it is. So where plank is a great thing, if you take a leg up and then you turn and drop a hip, keeping the arms as straight as possible, you can bring it through the middle. I do it in threes. Here's the really fun one. That was my foot. And then you go across, right? Middle. So you're dancing. There's no getting form right except for taking care of the joints. Okay? And then the reverse, when we do it, when we get there, it's a little trickier, is you're basically lifting, pulling the in, go across. Doesn't this look sassy? So sassy. All right, let's do the belly down one first. So turn the hands out a little, grab onto the fingertips. So what we want to do is lift one leg, and you're going to drop that same side hip to the floor and turn. So let's say everybody, your right leg is lifting, like in down dog even. So if you want to add more, go to down dog, lift the right leg, come to plank, turn, drop the right hip towards the floor, twist it. Go back up, raise the right leg, come through the middle, but don't touch the floor. And go back up, down dog, right leg up, and then turn to your right, turn the left leg to the right, right knee hiked out to the side, go back up, and then just stay in down dog for a moment, put the foot down. Take the left leg up, sweep to plank, drop your left hip towards the floor, turning to the right, below the diaphragm. Go back up, left leg up, and then bring it straight through the middle. Knee between the wrists. Come back up. Feel the shoulders now, and then turn to the left, hike the left knee out to the side, right hip just off the floor, come back, downward facing dog. Sit for a moment on the feet. Good morning. Personally, I feel that there comes a time when we choose to consciously, the technology of practice is the choice to move into the edge with wisdom. The more we're there, the more we cultivate wisdom, but it's to get into that choppy place and take care of ourselves while we still choose to remain in it. So we bring the practice and the fire together. They're not separate. Okay, let's go back to plank. Let's do one more round, and then we'll reverse it. So take the right leg up, go all the way to like a down dog. Take the right leg up. And then as you come down, turn your hips and legs to the left, drop the right outer hip towards the floor, hiking the right knee towards the left wrist. Go back up, then bring it straight through, pointing the right toes, don't touch. Back up. And then turn your lower body to the right, outer edge of the left foot, right knee out to the right, back up, and set the right foot down. Take the left leg up. Okay, so you're going to turn your lower body to the right, bring the left outer hip close, come back up. Bring it down the middle, come back up. And turn the lower body to your left, outer edge of the right foot, left knee out to the side, come back up. Go ahead and put the left foot down. Last time on the right side up. Isn't this fun? Turn to the left, right outer hip low, back up. And come to the middle. And back up. Turn to the right. Arms long. Come back up. Right foot down. Left leg up. Last time. Turn to the right. Left hip low. Come back up. Am I the only one doing this? Bring your left leg through the middle. Come back up. And last time, turn your lower body to your left. Hike. Back up. And have a seat. Sit anywhere you want to. Gravity is our friend. Although you may not have experienced that just now. Push the earth down a little bit with your sits bones so the pelvis leans a little bit in. The belly hollow, soft, hollow backwards, a soft support, especially below the navel, that actually supports a deeper breath. So the chest and the shoulders and the upper back and the neck wear the transparency of the upper body, weightless like a cape or a shawl. So let's attempt to do the reverse. We'll do just a little bit because this is new in class anyway. I do this on my own. So setting up your reverse plank and keeping some bend in the knees, definitely lift the hips. Maybe you want to bend a little bit more, okay? Pick up the left leg and just pull the foot in and sit and then come back up. Okay, then turn to your right, cross the midline with the left knee. You can touch the floor, come back up, and then do the opposite. Turn, yeah, and then come back up and extend the leg. So there's this up and down pulsation with the hips, right leg up, okay? So come down the middle, bring it in close, go back up. Now go across the midline, bringing the knee in as you do so, go back up, and then out to the right. You get creative, very good. So on your own, do another round. So you do the middle, and then you'll cross. And then you go out. You get really creative in the movement and then switch sides. A lot of shoulders going on here, everybody. A lot of buttocks, a lot of back line, the whole back chain waking up. Oh, so much fun. Okay, and then have a seat. The practice of allowance, the practice of witness, not disconnected from, but more drawn into the experience when we allow ourselves to feel it. And let the heart thunder, the shamanic drum, inside the temple, inside the chest, becomes the whole body. Find the kidneys, let them spread on the inhale, keep them wide when you exhale. Empty any residual tension in the neck, shoulders, eyes, jaw. Beautiful, great everyone. So let's come up into the key of squatting. Now it can be any squat. It can be asymmetrical like I'm doing here. It can be symmetrical, heels up, heels down. Symmetrical means you can have the knees and the feet pointing any direction, but move around in the shape. And very, very often, one of the best ways, I think, to orient within movement is to orient to your environment, both, so as you touch the ground with hands and feet as an example, you can soften or close the eyes and move the earth around. That orientation, move the planet around with your enthusiasm. When you're in an asymmetrical squat, you're going to mostly rock forward and back like I'm doing now, just moving forward and back. You can find your subtle or sometimes radical variations on your own. If you're in an asymmetrical squat, you want to turn around, you just turn 180 degrees out. You'll know which way to turn, and you have the other foot in front. It's really important to engage the earth with your hands too, so you're loading the upper body, even though we just did a lot of that. Remember the baseline for rehabbing the knee. So you want to point the foot and the knee above it in the same direction most of the time. You also need more active feet. Grab onto the ground with your toes. Supporting ankle, knee, hip. Turn on the body. It's going to be difficult to fire the glutes here for a lot of people. It's difficult for me sometimes. Like turn on the glutes, turn on the hamstrings, even though they're in the back and you may not even feel you need them, but they're so crucial, especially when you stand in the squat and come down into a squat. Now, let's turn to our right with an asymmetrical squat, the right foot leading, and slide the foot further forward. Now drop the left knee to the floor behind your right heel and then slide the right foot across. And what you're going to do here is let the whole right leg turn. Look at this, thigh, shin, foot pointing 45 off to the left. And slide that left knee back up off the floor. You're in a crossing squat. Now you're not going to move a lot. Let's see what you can do. Support it on the hands. Remember, you're not seeking a stretch. Where you feel the stretch, just try to engage. Okay, and then we're going to slide the right foot forward, spin out, bring the right foot in, turn to your left, pivoting, left foot forward, slide it further forward, bring the right knee down to the floor, behind the left heel, slide the left leg across the midline and turn the knee with the toes, then pick up the right knee if you can. So you've tangled yourself up in a crossing squat. And then move around. If you lean over onto your right hand, like this, you can move quite a bit just on the right arm. Rest your left elbow on your left knee. Look down or look up. Take care of your joints. You got to go slow and strong. Breathe, play. Come back up, slide the left leg off, have a seat. Take the legs out relatively wide, knees up a little, toes up, heels pulling into the ground. Float the arms, are going to lean into the right side and pull the right heel down into the ground so you don't feel a stretch. Sweep through the middle to your left, leaning in over the left leg and come on up. Then go back in on the left side. Slower, stronger, pass through the middle to the right. And coming up off that right side. So everyone go slow, relax the brow, try to tone every part of your body for this. Feet, hands, everything. Doesn't mean clench, it means joining in, arriving together. You return, you always go back in the way you just exited when you come up. Moving in water or something more viscous. Strong in the backs of the legs. It's a meditation, very fluid, moving meditation. Now the adductors, inner thighs, and the hamstrings are going to tend to get tender here, right? So how do we work them? To turn on the adductors is more tricky. The hamstrings do what I was talking about before. Keep pulling the heels down into the ground. But also without the feet moving, statically imagine pulling your legs towards each other, adducting, but resist with the outer leg. Tone and the adductors and the hamstrings together. It's the whole body really, but these are focal points. Okay, and then we're going to come on up. Turn the legs out. Sit cross-legged. It doesn't matter which side. Oh my goodness. Okay, and our last bit before we get into the final sequence that I want to guide us through, we're going to come up to the key of standing. So make sure it's conscious transition, maybe through the fold, the key of folding if you want. Take a moment here. Hinging at the hips is a basic human shape of folding at the hips, coming down, getting the head close to the ground when the feet are still on the earth. You can move side to side here. It's really, really amazing. And especially if you can move the planet side to side bilaterally with your hands and with your feet. You're going to bend your knees most of the time. Sometimes the legs straighten. You can let your head start to look around. You can find your footwork. You start to break open the glued feet to the ground. They open up and you start finding your dance. The heels lift, the ball of the foot lifts. You start pushing into the floor more with your hands. This is a transition. Everything is a transition up to standing in this case. And then make your way up. Keep moving slower, stronger as you stand. Strong, stay strong. Keep breathing. All of this is practice. All the way up to standing. And once you've arrived in the key of standing, look down at your feet. Turn the feet roughly parallel, straight ahead. They're going to tend to turn out most of the time. Most people turn out. And unlock everything, especially the knees and space between the ears. Okay, so I want to get us into this little sequence before we do the big sequence. Drop your right foot back just a little bit. And what you want to do is rock back onto the right leg, making the front foot light, almost like a cat stance. And then shift your weight, pull the ground back with your feet and rock forward onto the left leg. Come up onto the ball of the back foot and lean back a little bit. Okay. Just an introduction. And then rock back onto the right leg again, looking down for balance. Now pick up your left foot a little bit and then turn the left leg in. As you turn around to your right, 180 degrees, and the right foot's leading. Then rock forward onto the right leg, ball of the left foot, look up and back bend a little. Stay here for a moment. Strong belly, everybody. Strong belly. And then rock back onto the left leg, looking down. Pick up the right foot a little. Turn the right leg in as you turn around to your left. Left foot leading. Rock forward onto the left leg. Find your gentle back bend. Rock back onto the right leg. Make the left leg really light so you can pivot and turn to your right. 180. Rock onto the right leg. Your back bend. So you get the picture. So on your own, just find your rhythm, find your translation of this, glimpsing into the origins of many practices. Martial arts, derivative of Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Qigong. No system except human intuition. Beautiful. Very current. As you pivot, as you turn, it's a huge practice of balance. In the Embody Keys language, pivot is a navigational key. It's one of the ways we change direction and navigate our environment. Just a few more rounds. Strong, strong through the glutes, strong through the whole body. Finishing whatever round you're on now. Feels good in here, everyone. Beautiful. And when you're ready, just returning to a simple stance, neutral, unlocked. Okay, great. So let's, don't crash, come down consciously to a seat. We're gonna go through this crazy little sequence. And the first time through, we'll do it probably twice, maybe a third time, but start with the left leg in front for this. The first time around, you'll have to reorient. Direction, as you've already been able to tell, we let go of the grid of direction and just try to come back to the compass in the core. Okay, so this first piece is easy. We're gonna roll the left shoulder into the left knee. And just stay there for a moment because it's really good. And pull the tricep down into the leg. You can turn and look down. You can turn and look up. You can point the right knee way off to the right. The right hip is floating, but the whole body's toned. And then what we're gonna do is come up. Okay, now you have to orient to the cues in your space. Put your right hand down a little bit back and to the right and catch hold of your left foot with your left hand. And we're gonna lean into the right hand, across the midline. And you wanna pull on your left foot and equally push into the left hand. And then as you push off the right hand, come up and balance and go across the midline. Catch the sole of the foot, knee bent with the right hand, put the left hand down. Good, now watch, if you can see. I'm gonna lift the hips. I'm gonna turn, release the foot behind me and cross the midline in a crouch, crossing crouch. And you're gonna move around in this. You move around in this, crossing right over left in a crouch, a key of crouching, very human. Just exploring everybody. This is great, amazing for the side body, amazing for the hips. Now what you're gonna do is turn just a little bit to your left, turn your back leg out and drop back into a long squat on the left leg. The right leg is pretty much where it was. Stay for a moment, land for a moment. Now here's the tricky bit. Lift the hips, use your hands, lift the hips into a crouch. Now, so what you wanna do is take the back leg and fly it up in the air. Balance on the ball of the right foot and turn a little to your right, kind of like a half moon. Turn the hands out, the hands are forward. What you're gonna do is lower your right knee forward and down between your hands, like this, and put your forehead on the floor. Pick up the left hip a little more, elbows in close. While your head is rolling on the floor, bring your left knee down next to the right. Roll onto the left side of the forehead, left side of the head, and extend the right leg back and up like half moon. Now, gather your shoulder blades together. Careful with this. Can you lift up and lift the left knee and fly the right leg like half moon? Now, look under your left arm to your left. Drop your sky leg over to the right as you turn to the right, landing in a squat, both hands behind you. Okay, so we survived that part so far. So you're going to slide your right leg forward. Lift the hips high, it's very important. Step over the top, left foot forward and crouch. And move in the crouch. Slower. Take it easy. Slower, stronger. Meditation in motion. Walking your hands a little forward. Slide your right foot behind your left foot and come up slowly into a cat stance. Left foot leading. Balancing on the right leg, most of the weight on the right leg. Pick up the heel of the left foot. Good, now put the left heel down, look to your right, and slide the right foot. It goes 90-degree turn to the right, step the right foot out in the cat stance. So everyone looks like this. Transition, you're just walking. You're gonna load the left, bring the right foot in, slide the right foot forward, and you're in cat stance. Now the load's on the left leg. Make sure your left knee and left toes point in the same direction, the loaded leg. And then put the right heel down. In slow motion, step forward, turn a little to the front, and just keep your left foot a little behind you. Okay, so while you're here, you can see, let me show you what we were doing. So we were here in the crouch after that side plank. Okay, and then we're sliding that back foot in, pushing up, push the sky up in your cat, right? And then we transition, right? And then from here, kind of just gracefully step out and return, but that foot stays behind. Now we're here together, you ready? Here's your stance. So you're gonna turn the front leg out more. And then as you drop down, turn both legs out, knees track with the toes. Maybe you don't need your hands into a squat. And then lower the left knee down, point the left toe, sit behind the left ankle, sit down, right leg in front. And we managed to switch sides. Right leg is in front now. Take a moment. Everybody okay? The last couple of days have been really strange, right? Or am I just projecting that? Okay, see, that's the answer. You're not crazy. So this is what we do, right? We feel it and we let the energy move through without knocking us too sideways. Sometimes that's necessary too. So here we go. We're gonna lean the right shoulder into the right knee. Right shoulder into right knee. You take the arm comes inside, elbow inside. Stay here for a moment and tone your whole conscious animal. Your coat is shiny and supple, capable, and it runs through and through. This is not just the coat of the cat, it's the whole body, the whole embodiment. Put it together again. And then you're going to come up and you set your left hand off to the left and catch your right foot with your right hand and lean into the left hand across the midline with the right leg and lean, push and pull. You pull with the hand, right hand, and you push with the right leg. Knees bent. Now cut across the midline with the right leg. Let the left hand cup the sole of the right foot. Bend the knee. Put the right hand down. Set your inside leg. Look at this. The left knee comes up naturally. Lift the hips. Keep hold of the foot as long as you can. Pivot to the right. Release the right leg behind you and across the midline. Left leg is crossing the right. I don't even know how I teach this stuff. It's like almost impossible. Breathe. Hang the head, everybody. Don't tighten them back of the neck if you don't have to. Open the throat. Soften and open the upper throat as top of the midline. Now we're going to turn a little to the right. Turn the right leg out and back and drop. Use your hands. Drop into a long squat, which is an asymmetrical squat with the left foot a little further forward. Remember to turn the right knee and the right foot in the same direction. More active toes, more active feet. Now lift the hips. Take the right leg up. Walk your hands forward and to the left, pivoting on the ball of the left foot like half moon. And then see if you can lower the left knee down between your hands. Lower the left side of the forehead to the floor. The right leg still reaching back and up. Then bring the right knee down to the left knee. Roll onto the right side of the forehead. Extend the left leg back and up and lift up the hips on the right knee. Flying up into a half moon-ish. So I use these yoga names because I taught it for a long time, but also you're familiar with them. Now look under your right arm, turn to your left, drop into a squat, both hands behind you. Love that transition, it's fun. Good, now extend your left leg forward and turn the left leg out so the little toe touches. Lift your hips as high as you can on your left hand. Step over the top into a crouch. No, left leg forward. There you go, now turn this way, no this way. Yeah, there you go. Now step the right foot forward into a crouch. And move around in the crouch, everyone, because you've got to. The exploration is much of the practice. It's finding variation within a shape, a functional shape, and then explore. Now, walking your hands forward, slide the back foot much closer to the front foot. Rock onto the back leg for cat. And come up in cat stance, right foot leading. Now put the right foot down, look over your left shoulder, turn left, step the left foot out in front of you in cat stance, heading home. And then all we're going to do is take a step forward on the left leg, turn a little more to your left, and bring the right foot just behind the left. Just like this. Now turn the front leg out more. And then as you drop down, turn both legs out more. And then see if you can squat wide, drop the right knee, sit behind the right ankle, and drop into the seat, left leg in front. So we'll go through this sequence one more time before we rest, but just take a few moments here and holding space for ourselves is a matter of witness and allowance before we engage and as we engage. So left leg is in front. Here we go. Lean your left shoulder into your left knee. The only challenge you have this last round is to have more fun, okay? And then we're gonna come on up and set your right hand behind you, catch your left foot with your left hand, cross the midline. Pull on the leg as it presses into the hand. Cut the leg to the left, heel first. Right hand cups the sole of the left foot, knee bent. Put the left hand behind you, set your right leg, lift the hips, turn to your left, releasing the left leg behind you across the midline. Yeah, and you just move around in this. You know, it's a good practice to hang the back of the head off of the shoulder blades when you're upside down like this. Or just in general, releasing the occiput from the scapulae is super good stuff. Turn a little to your left and drop onto the back leg in a long squat. Use your hands. And what we're going to do is lift the hips first. Walk your hands forward and to the right a little. Take the left leg up, turn a little to your right. Fly the left leg, bent or long, kind of like a half moon. And while you're up there, turn your hands out, lean forward and bring the right knee down to the floor. Put the right side of the forehead on the ground. Lift the left hip a little more, strong through the left glutes. Bring the left knee down next to the right knee. Roll onto the left side of the forehead. Pick up the right leg. Shoulder blades together. Try to lift up out of this. Knee and hips flying. Right leg skyward. Right hip rolling high like a half moon. Look to your left. That's where your right foot is going to fall as you turn to your right into a squat. Both hands behind you. So this is the tricky part. Right leg forward. Turn the toes out. Lift the hips. You're on your right hand. Step over the top. Left foot forward in a crouch. And moving in the crouch. Don't let your head get fixed in space and time. Find the pelvic floor, spaciousness, buoyancy. Slide the back foot close to the front foot for cat stance. Coming up, all the load on the right leg, very, very left, the left leg is really light. Now put the left heel down, step forward onto the left leg, now look to your right, a quarter turn. Slide your right foot out in the direction of your gaze. Turn your back leg in a little bit, cat stance, right foot. Sinking the hips. Then step forward onto the right leg. And standing up, turning a little to your right. Just drag your left foot in just behind you. Just behind you. Put both feet on the floor and pause. You have a slightly asymmetrical stance. This thing is very organic, everyone. Very organic. It's spontaneous. You have to feel it. You'll translate it your own way within the guidance. Now, to sit like this is a protocol and just challenging your sitting capacity. Turn your front leg out. And then turn, as you start to drop, turn both legs out. Come on the ball of the left foot. Try to drop all the way down. Use your hands if you need to. Then lower the left knee to the floor. Point the left toe, sit behind the left heel, and then fold the right leg in front. All right, last time through, and then we'll rest, okay? So lean your right shoulder into your right knee. So good. Draw the low front ribs and the kidneys back a little. You can rest your head in your hand if you like, in all kinds of different ways. And then as you come up, pushing the right leg and hip into the ground, set your left hand behind you, catch your right foot with your right hand, and fly that leg as far to the left as you can across the midline. Swing the leg over the midline and to the right. As you do so, let your left hand cup, bend the knee, cup the sole of the foot. Put the right hand down, set your left leg inside, lift, turn, pivot. Right leg goes behind, crossing the midline. Stay here for a moment and remember that the stretch is a call to action. Try to engage more glutes, more hamstrings, the lungs, spinalis muscles, the erectors. That's your whole back line, everyone. Lift the belly, soften the eyes. Turn a little to your right, just to drop back onto the right leg in a squat. Your left leg is still out in front of you. Right leg turns out. This next part, we're going to lift the hips, walk the hands forward and to the left, fly the right leg, kind of turn in line like you would for like a half moon, and then bring the left knee down to the floor, somewhere near your hands. Keep the right leg floating, bring the left forehead, temple down, mind the shoulders that they're not dumping to the floor, bring the right knee next to the left knee, all those toes tucked under, lift the left leg back and up, and then lift the whole thing up, flying the left leg down. Look under your right arm. That's where your left foot is going to land. Turn to your left, as seen from above. You're in a squat with both hands behind you. Now slide your left leg forward. Turn the left leg out. And it's really important as you take your right hand off the floor, lift your hips as high as you can. Then turn the left leg towards the floor, step over the top, turning to the left 180, right foot forward in a crouch. And move. Slower. Stronger and somehow softer, all at once. Okay, now slide, walking your hands forward, slide your back foot almost to the front foot and put that heel down. And push the earth down with both legs to stand up for cat. Load the left leg, lift the right heel. Breathe, everyone, get into your hips. They're tired, they're getting stronger. Put the right heel down, look over your left shoulder, turn to your left foot forward, cat stance, heading home. Take a step forward onto the left leg, dragging the right foot just behind. Put both feet down and pause, unlock both knees, put your right hand on your heart. Put the back of your left hand on your sacrum. Slide your right hand down to the belly, the thumb below the navel. The pinky finger at the pubic bones. Breathe between your hands, gently rocking slightly front to back, left leg leading in the key of standing, just coming home. Okay, look down, release the arms for balance. Turn the left leg out first, the right leg out as you come down, knees track with the feet, dropping, dropping, dropping. Put the right knee down, point the right toes, sit behind the right foot, left leg in front for just 30 seconds. And then go ahead and come lying down. Please lie down and rest consciously. Once again, opening the fabric of the throat, the back and sides of the throat, much more open, and think of it as a wingspan. Broadening the back of the throat is broadening the front of the spine, the cervical spine. And in fact, let all of the spine from tail to occiput broaden with your breath, with your exhale too. As the mind journeys, find the discernment, the thread of discernment that is, it might even feel like brainstem. It might feel like you can locate it in the body, midline, mid-space. Let the mind journey while you also presence. You can do both. It's like feeling the mind and spreading the sacrum at the same time. So the transition, um, another transition, this one into the rest of the flow of your day. Let it begin with creative movement and curiosity, and enjoy your way back up to a seat. Take your time. What an honor, everyone, and an inspiration every time. Thank you for sharing your time and space and your presence. Blessings, and continue practicing throughout your day. I'll see you soon. Sign off here.